going to show you how to make a digital counselor request form. This is a form that you can share with your students and also with your staff if a student wants to make an appointment. So I found that many of my teachers shared the link to this form with their students and showed them how to bookmark it so that they would have it saved on their device. And they also had a poster hanging up that I created that had a QR code that the students could scan from their phone or from their any device they had, and they would be able to fill out this form. It didn't take too long for them. So I'm going to show you what I did with my form. I was working with 5th and 6th grade students when I created this, so it looks a little younger. Some of the language is more appropriate for the younger children. So this is what my form looked like. I required, anytime you see this little red star, that means that it's a required question and they can't submit the form unless they complete that question. So I was automatically collecting their email addresses, and I separated out first name and last name because I wanted to be able to sort their information on the Google Sheet that is automatically created whenever you create a Google form. So I had them separate this out because I often found if I just write your name or write your full name, I would sometimes get a nickname or something else and I'd have to figure out who they were from their email address. So I highly recommend that. And then I added this question here: is your problem urgent? And our counseling department came up with a working definition of urgent that was developmentally appropriate for our students. So by urgent, we mean that you're worried about your safety or the safety of others. So if a student selects yes, it's going to bring you to a certain set of pieces of information. And if they say no, it's going to allow them to continue to complete the form. So I'm going to show you what this looks like in terms of filling this out. test@gmail.com. And their first name is, let's say, Stu, and last name is Dent. And is the problem urgent? So let me show you what this looks like. So let's say they hit yes, and it brings you to this page. And it's a reminder that urgent means that you're worried about your safety or the safety of others. And so what I did is I uploaded this information here. This is actually, I took a screenshot of this information and I included in increasing order of severity, what are some steps that they should take. So the first thing is talk to a trusted adult immediately. And this is a hotline that students can call. This is a text hotline that they could also use that's in my area. I have the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and also the phone number for the local police department, or to just call 911. So you might think about what are some resources you would share with your students and not knowing why they're selecting urgent. This is really beneficial because I found that students might email me after school hours and there might be something going on at home that was really serious, and I didn't see that email until the next day, and they just sent an email. Even if I had an away message, they really actually needed this information that's indicated here. So let's say that this problem is not urgent. They're going to select no. And then I had a few more pieces of information I was looking for, like what team they're on. And I just wanted to get a sense of why they wanted to make an appointment. So it might be a school problem, home problem, problem with friends, or they just want to talk. And these are categories that our counseling department came up with. And what helped with this is if I noticed that all of my students from a certain team were, or not all of them, but several of them from a certain team were filling this out, and they were saying that there was, a school problem, and maybe they shared there was a situation at recess, I could immediately see who might be involved in this situation, and it could help me to, make time to meet with those students. Let's make your counselor request form. We're going to start off in Google Drive, and we're going to select New, and we'll go over here to Google Forms. And we're going to go to a blank form. You can title it Counselor Request Form, or you can have it with your name in there. And we're going to start adding in our questions. So let's see how smart Google is. Look at that. As soon as you type an email, it asks you, do you want to enable the email collection setting, which means that it's automatically going to collect email addresses. So that's one less thing for folks to type. So last name, and we want to make this required. First name, and you can do it in a different order if that makes sense to you, whatever works for your population. And then if you want to include my question, which is this situation urgent, you can do that. And urgent means that you're worried about your safety or the safety of others. So Google is so smart that it suggests making this a multiple choice question. That means that they can only select one of these options. So we're going to select yes, we want that as an option, or you could even just type it in, no. And we're not going to add maybe because we just want this to be a forced choice. And we're going to make this a required question. So then we're going to add a section over here. And we're going to call this urgent. And just to save time, I'm just copying and pasting. Means you are worried about your safety or the safety of others. And then we're going to add another section. So let's say somebody says, yes, this situation is urgent. It's going to bring them to this section 2. If they say no, it's going to bring them to a different section. And I'm just going to call this, tell me more. And then over here, let's see, we're just going to add maybe a question about what's going on. Now, you wouldn't actually do this because you might get a long story in here, so you might just want to narrow it down to the location. Is this a school problem, like academic, social, something like that happening? So I'm just going to say what's going on and make this required. So now we have, notice this is section 3, section 2, and then we're going to come back up here because remember we said based on these answers, we want, so if they say, yes, this problem is urgent, we want them to come here. So we're going to have this noted as we're going to go to a section based on an answer. So that answer is either yes or no. So if they say yes, their problem is urgent, we want them to go to section 2. If they say no, they can continue on with the form and they can tell us more about what's happening. So over here, what I did for this section is I added an image. And what I did is I wrote down some information that I thought would be really helpful for the students, and I just uploaded that image into that section. So what you can do is you can go back to your Google Drive. I like to go to Google Drawings. And I'm just going to call this info. So what I might do is just have a big text box. I like to use a colorful background. Step 1, tell an adult resources. And I'm just going to have that here. So then I take this information and I'm just going to screenshot this. And you're going to fill this up with a lot more information about where students can go. It might just be 1 or 2 resources, but whatever is meaningful for your students will go there. And then I'm going to take that image and upload it. So it's right here. This is essentially how I created, let me show you over here, this right here. This is the image that I included that has all of the information for my students, including the local police department. I decided to put them in this order because I thought it would be most meaningful for our students, that they could always contact this hotline, and it's a really good resource for students in our area. And then the texting hotline, but I was concerned about the times that it was available, so I didn't want to make that as the first choice in case it was too late. And then the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and then the police department and 911. So talk with your department and decide what order you would like to have that information in. So this is what our form looks like. And let's see what it would look like to fill out this form. So we're just going to call it test@gmail.com. last name, Dent, first name, Stu. Is the situation urgent? Let's see what happens. So it brings you to this section here that gives you all of the information. So technically they can continue on to the next section and tell you a little bit more. Sometimes I've had students do that when they feel like the problem is urgent and then they realize, I've had a student say, well, I felt like my safety was at risk, but I realized it wasn't, quite at that level. So sometimes it can feel very urgent, but then when they really look at what we mean by urgent, they realize, oh, that's not the case. So they can continue on and fill out the form and tell us more about what's happening. Or let's go down here. Let's say they selected no, the problem isn't urgent. It just brings them to this next step here, and they could submit their answer. So they might give you some more information. So we're going to hit submit, and let's go back to our form over here. And if you notice up here, you're going to see some responses, and this number will increase with each response that is submitted. So if you want to get notified every time someone submits a response, you can go to settings, and let's see, remember we're collecting our email responses, and oops, not in there. So it's over here. So you're going to get email notifications for new responses. So if you select that, you're going to get an email every time someone submits a response. There's another option for you to get notified as well. So here's all of our information that was submitted to us. So you can see this in a quick summary, but I like to look at it on a spreadsheet. So over here by this green button, you're going to select create a new spreadsheet. You're going to create one, and it will automatically have all of this information here. So one of the things I like to do is go up to tools and select notification rules, and you can select notify me, let's say right away anytime a user submits a form, or notify me anytime changes are made on a daily basis. So I tended to want to be notified right away if a user submits a form. So those are some options that you have there, and you can add multiple notification rules. So with this form, so if you ever want to preview your form, remember you're going to go to this icon here that looks like an eyeball. You can look at this form over here. What I like to do is create a short link out of my forms. So one quick one you can use is tinyurl.com. A lot of people will use bit.ly or something else. So I copied over, let's see where it is, over here, this link. This is where it says view form. And I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to call this counselor request form test, and it's going to make this tiny URL. I'm going to copy this link by selecting copy to the clipboard. I'm going to go back to my form, and what I like to do is put a link in here. I like to use this little emoji for a link, and then I just paste in the link to my form. You can actually take out that HT, oops, let me just show it to you again. Everything before the words tiny URL, so these two slashes, all this text here, and this link will still work. So I just like to have that at the top in case folks want to access that link. And if you look at it, you can see it's clickable just like that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here back to our Google Drive, and we're going to make a little flyer. Now I love using Google Slides to make flyers because I find it's really easy to move things around. So I'm going to call this flyer, and I'm going to change, I am going to change the settings here in page setup. I'm going to make it custom, 8.5 by 11, which is a typical size of a sheet of paper. And if you remember, we have our link here that we've used for the counselor request form, so you can include that on there. This is going to be our flyer that we're going to create. Now remember, when you print this out, there's a margin, so you can't make all of your text go all the way to the different edges over there. Just going to make this a little bit bigger. And let's see, let's make that font size 20. Okay. So you might just add some information here. Do you want to make, let me make that a little larger so you can see it. Make an appointment with your school counselor. Click the link below or scan this QR code. So we're going to make this link clickable just by adding that hyperlink there. And you might want to make it a little bit brighter. I like a bright blue color. So you might be wondering, how are we going to scan a QR code? So what we're going to do is just go back here to our form. We're going to copy this link to it, and we're going to go to this website. It's a QR code generator, and right here you're just going to put in the link, and then you can just download the QR code. And you'll see it come up over here. That's our QR code. And what I'm going to do is go back to my flyer over here and upload this image because I've downloaded it. So you can have them scan this QR code and it'll give them access to the form, or they can click this link. Now you might be wondering, well, how am I going to get this information out to students? So what I like to do is there's a couple of things you can do with Google Slides, or really a lot of the Google Documents and Sheets, is you can come up here to the top, see where it says edit. I'm going to go all the way back to there, and I'm going to select preview. Or I'm going to type in the word preview in all lowercase. And if you do that, I'm just going to copy and paste this and share this out. So you can actually share that link. You can email it out to your students, and it looks almost like a website. So I love sharing this out with, I use this for flyers or other pieces of information that I want to share out with folks. And I just make this one slide, and you can make the dimensions a lot bigger and share it out. But what's nice too is that you can also click this link and it's usable. So it's a really helpful way for you to share out some flyers with folks and get some information out. What I like about sharing flyers and information out using this preview option is that, let's say I create a really nice flyer, I download it as a PDF and I share it out with everyone, and I find that there's a mistake or something has changed, I can go back here and I can add a few more details. Now, I don't want to change too much once I've shared it out, but if let's say the location of a program has changed or there's some updated information, I can certainly include that. What a lot of people will do is make this look really pretty with some additional information that might be helpful, like about the office or a photo of yourself, or maybe some cartoon characters, but you can spice it up a little bit. This is a pretty simple flyer. And when they scan this, they just use their phone or their tablet and they can scan the QR code. It'll bring them right to your form. So I've seen a lot of counseling departments that will create several of these for each of the counselors, and they have them posted around the school, and sometimes they even put them on the back of the bathroom stall so that students can discreetly scan and from their phone and make an appointment. Not the most sanitary, but sometimes when you want to get the word out, it can be really helpful. So these are some options for you to create your counselor request form. I love all of these different features in Google, from creating this form to being able to sort the answers that students give me to send them in the right direction. For example, if they have an urgent problem, I like collecting the information on a spreadsheet, and I can track my responses here. I might add some more information about when I followed up. And I also just love that I can create a quick flyer out of this and share this information out with my community, either by sharing this link or printing this out and allowing folks to scan this QR code.